Here with Austin Price of VolQuest.com, and Austin, Tennessee up at the half, everything going for them. They score a touchdown late, and then it just all falls apart in the second half.
Yeah, at halftime, to quote the great Denny Green, they had them right where they want them, and they let them off the hook. I mean, for Tennessee fans, this was a hard one to swallow. It's 2 quarters: second quarter at Florida, third quarter at Bama. Alabama made adjustments. Credit to them. I mean, they made plays in the second half, and Tennessee did not. And then Heupel going forward on fourth down on his side of the 50 twice, when Jackson Ross looked like Ray Guy out there at times tonight. Probably not the best move.
Well, and I know Tennessee fans. I was watching Twitter. I was watching the message boards. Not happy about the officiating. You asked Josh Heupel about that.
Well, they shouldn't be.
Yeah.
I mean, I asked him about it. I said, "Did you feel like it was one-sided?" He just stared at me. It seemed like at points in the second half, your defenders were having to play two-hand touch, and they were allowed to play more Kombat out there a little bit. I mean, did you feel like that it was a bit one-sided?
Next question. Yeah, was that long enough silence?
Yeah. And then said next question after about 10 to 12 seconds, and then said, was that long enough silence for you? In other words, he's pissed.
Yeah, I don't want to get fined, basically.
And yeah, correct. He doesn't want to get fined. I would have taken the fine. Like it was blatant tonight. Again, that's not why Tennessee lost. Alabama made some adjustments. They made plays, but to try to get the momentum back, it didn't help that Tennessee was having to play more than the 11 on the other side. But you know what? I mean, Tennessee's got to shake this off and get back to work, because they got Kentucky next week. Kentucky is formidable. It's a game Tennessee normally wins, and if Tennessee can win it, they'll be 6-2 heading to November. It's only happened once, and that was last year, since Phil Fulmer was fired in 2008.
How does this team bounce back from this?
I don't know. I mean, I think that they've got a group of resilient kids. The problem is I think the passing game's somewhat limited, just because Joe's still not putting together a full game. He had 175 in the first half, he had a little over 50 in the second, and a lot of it was kind of garbage yards there, at the end. They've got to figure out a way to run the football next week. They didn't run it real successful night outside of Joe with some design quarterback stuff. And, if they can do that and play good defense again, they'll have a shot.
Nick Saban said they changed things up. They'd done more odd front to start because they thought that was going to help them, but it turned out the even front stuff worked a lot better. It doesn't seem like Tennessee could adjust to that.
No, Alabama made the adjustments in the second half. They were able to get pressure on Joe Milton. Even when he was able to get passes away, he was affected, Andy.
Yeah.
And obviously the scoop and score after the strip sack, that's one thing. But, I mean, Tennessee at that point was down 7. They were trying to make something happen, and they just couldn't ever get any kind of momentum in the second half at all.
So where are we at on this Tennessee team right now? Is this about what you thought this team would be right here in this part of the season?
I thought they'd go 9-3.
Okay.
I honestly thought they'd probably lose to Texas A&M at home. They beat A&M. I thought they'd win at Florida on the road. They didn't. So you flip those two. I thought they'd be right where they are. It's not a great Tennessee team. They found a way to win some games. They've got to find a way to win next week. Again, being 6-2 heading to November, and they play UConn. They'll be 7-2 going to Missouri. Another tough game.
Yeah.
Those Kentucky and Missouri games, that'll be the games that really determine the season, whether they're 9-3 or 8-4 or 7-5, depending on kind of what they are in those top games.
Is there a chance down the road that Heupel sprinkles in a little more Nico as they sort of move toward next season?
I don't think so, unless they lose a game like next week. Like, you lose next week, you're going into UConn, it's a perfect time, especially if Tennessee struggles to throw it next week. That's the perfect time to make the move to Nico. It's kind of the Tyler Bray move, right? Except for you're a lot better record-wise than when Tyler Bray went in for Matt Sims. But, I just don't think they're ready to go in that direction yet. But, again, it's a game-by-game basis.
So in terms of how this team is together, because it seems like after a loss like this, there's two things that can happen. You either come together, fall apart. How good is this coaching staff at making sure they can stay together?
Well, the real question, I think, is the offensive side, because outside of Heupel and Glenn Ellerby, there's a lot of inexperience on the offensive side. Jerry Mack has coached a long time, but Kelsey Pope's in year 2, Alec Abelin in year 1. Joey Halsley's coached a long time, but it's his first year as a coordinator, so he's in a different role. The defensive side I don't really worry about. It's just straight veterans on that side. So again, I think that leadership will be tested. Anytime you lose a game like this, especially the way you lost it, the defense probably feels like they were kind of left out there on an island when you go forward on your side of the 50 twice and don't get it either time. That's tough for the defense. They felt like they were out there a whole lot tonight.
Well, and it's interesting because the defense is very good, has been good all season.
Yeah.
And does seem capable of creating game-changing plays. I wonder, with an offensive-minded head coach, can he turn his thinking to say,
can he play
let
that
the
way?
defense
But he did last week.
Exactly. Because it's the first game they had won where Josh Heupel hadn't scored 30 points.
That's right. Or trailed at halftime.
So can he grow as a head coach in that way? Because, UCF, you didn't have to. You were scoring on everybody.
Yeah.
But in this league, you're going to have games like that where you got to let your defense, if it's playing well, do what it does.
Well, that, and they've got to learn to, the short yardage stuff. That was something they were really good at last year with Carvin and Darnell Wright. This year, it's a struggle bus on short yardage. It was against A&M. It was again tonight on those 2 4th and 1s. In this league, you've got to get a 3rd and 1 or a 4th and 1 to extend a drive, to close out a game. And so, they've got to be better now. I don't know why they don't do the tush push. Joe's 6'5" and
he's huge,
30 pounds.
But they don't have the under center stuff in the offense, right?
Well, they do. They did a year ago. I can't imagine that they don't. I mean, they did a year ago when they would line up Hennon under center and hand it to Princeton.
You're right.
I don't really understand. I guess I'm just that's where and I probably asked the Heupel out on Monday, you're not going under center at all. Why? Is there a justification for it? Now, back to your question about the defense. The defense up front, really, really good. Linebacker, I think they really still miss Keenan Peely to a degree. He hoping to get back in the month of November. Maybe Missouri. He's a little bit ahead of schedule. We'll see. And then the back end, I thought all offseason, Jalen McCullough, is he a liability? Is he not? I mean, he's played solid this year. I mean, he really has. And he and Wesley Walker, and then Kamal Haddon's playing some of his best football. Tennessee's got to get to figure it out on the defensive side because they've got to be able to lean on that going forward. I think that's just the team they are.
Yeah, and against Kentucky, you got to stop the run.
Yep, and
they can affect Devin Leary. I don't think there's a question about that.
And they can shut down the run. I mean, they do a nice job against the run. I mean, Tennessee's defensive front's really formidable. I think Kentucky coming off a bye, they're going to have to scheme some stuff up because I think that what they do well is what Tennessee does well defensively, which means it could be a tougher night for Kentucky.
Yeah,
next
just
week.
A bad matchup kind
unless,
of situation.
Coming off a bye helps them, and it could. Tennessee's coming off Bama; they're coming off a bye.
Yeah, well, it feels like a very crucial stretch coming up for the Vols. We'll have to see what happens. Thank you, Austin.
You're welcome, Andy.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much for watching. Just a reminder, subscribe to this channel right here so you never miss an episode of Andy Staples On 3. And oh, by the way, watch all the other great videos on the On3 Sports YouTube channel.